Chris, we're back with 10 more questions today, but from a different angle. Now we're really approaching it from our target audience. How do you suggest that I actually measure the return for my company on our trade show spend?
Great question. Great question. This is a hot topic right now.
What is my plan to drive trade show traffic to my booth space?
You need to ask that. What are we doing?
Is this show really worth our participation?
Either veteran, tenured, or new, the days of just buying a great looking booth and showing up without a strategic plan. The show is the peak of the mountain, but you still got to get up it and you got to get down it.
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders podcast.
Chris, we're back with 10 more questions today, but from a different angle.
We are.
I won't be doing as much talking today. I'll give you the opportunity to shine.
Okay. I am, put me in, coach.
Okay. Well, coming from the exhibitor standpoint, last time we were talking about, the 10 least questions asked by business owners in the trade show industry, but now we're really approaching it from our target audience, the people that are going to trade shows with booths, looking to host an event essentially at the trade show. So let's jump in. First question is, and maybe for this, I will just ask as the person. I'm going to be at the trade show. I'm going to be hosting a booth.
You've been this guy, so
I'm
I know
asking
you
you.
can authentically
We're back in motion. My first question that I really should be asking is, how can I create a realistic budget for a trade show?
I love it.
Maybe I have a budget, but what should be my realistic budget?
I mean, there you go. We're not burying the lead. That's the first thing out of the chute. By the way, I love that we're doing this because when we did the least asked questions by business owners, and we certainly there's more than 10, but I love the 10 that we picked. It just, I know in the middle of that episode, we were talking about, man, we should be doing this for exhibitors because so many people are disappointed with results. There's things they didn't think about. They wish they planned for. So I think, Experience Builders listeners, those that are sharing this with their customers, it's a great thing to share with end user exhibitors and, or just use it, internalize it yourself as questions to talk to them. So to your point, how do you create a realistic budget? Well, I think there's two approaches. One is if you've been doing shows, add up all the bills you paid from your last big industry show and document that. Most exhibitors that are veteran at exhibit have that information. Some already have it in spreadsheets. But so one approach is to say, we're going to spend what we spent last year. But I would challenge you to look a little bit further and say, did we get the results we wanted last year? Because if we didn't, and we need to lean in and do more, if we need to create an incentive for people come see us, and that might be a nice gift or a 2 or 3 levels of gift based on how good a prospect they are or how deeply they go into your engagement. So there may be an additional budget for that. Maybe you found out you didn't bring the right people to the show and you need to bring in different people, and that could change travel expense. Maybe you're going to create some kind of an event or something in the booth. It doesn't have to necessarily be a celebrity. Maybe it's an interactive game, but something that might add to the cost. So you want to make sure you're adding that. But one, I think a good place to start is past year's budgets, but challenge yourself on what do we want to accomplish this year, and how we're going to do it. And so you're just kind of reverse engineering what you're envisioning that final experience being, and it's wildly successful, and 300 people have been through the booth. And did you hand out 300 things? Did you hand out 200? Did you hand out 100, pen or keychain level things, but you've handed out 50 VIP gifts? Are you bringing a little bit more in terms of staff? So not everybody's on duty all day. We're going to work in shifts. So we've got a few more people, which again adds to travel. I think you have to think about all those things, Khalil, before you can put a number on what a realistic budget is. Does that make sense?
So yeah, for sure. And I think that's probably why it's a least asked question, because they come with a budget, but they're not thinking about all the factors that you're obviously aware of as an expert.
By the way, the most memorable companies I visited, sometimes I'm getting something after the show. They're thanking me for coming in, and I'm getting something nice that sort of ties into what we talked about or what their offering is. And again, so there's pre-show marketing, there's post-show follow through, and often that may mean some kind of incentive as you're asking for the next appointment in whatever your sales process is. So something to consider there.
Okay. I think another big problem, I don't know how to know how impactful the show is. And how do you suggest that I actually measure the return for my company on our trade show spend?
Great question. This is a hot topic right now, I think, because, and there's a lot of podcasts that are emerging where this is discussed. And I think you have to decide, this comes down to what are the goals for the show? I mean, if you're going to launch a new product, or if you know your sales cycle for whatever your service offering is typically 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. It's not easy to measure. It used to be some companies can go and within 90 days they can see the sales just shoot up on their graph because of, it's just that quick type of a sales cycle. Most of us don't make sales. So if you have a system of measuring sales over 3, 6, 9, and 12 months, I think it's tougher after that. I think you keep tracking that, but I think most of us are, Matt Kleinrock's team over at Rockway Exhibits has a podcast. I love, they use the word pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. We say getting leads, driving sales pipeline. This is the perfect place. These kinds of events are perfect for driving opportunities that are going to go in your pipeline. And the sales are only going to come if you're amazing at the follow-up and the follow-through, right? So you have to be great at those things. But are you there for pipeline? Are you there for brand awareness, which is not an easy thing? So that's probably going to involve some surveys that you're going to do over the next 6 months, 12 months about how people are reading that. And trust me, I know the bosses upstairs in the C-suite aren't in love with slippery goals like brand awareness, right? Or, but I think you have to be honest about, what in the sales process, what part of the influence of that final sale that gets made is influenced by that trade show or by that event. How do we look to attribute the spend there and what we did there? Because I'm telling you and I both know, if we meet for the first time at a show, Khalil, and that's where we connect in a booth, and maybe we connect over a drink in a bar, or we're at a networking reception for somebody, and we see each other again, but now we've connected 2 or 3 times over that 3 or 4 day conference. It's so much. I can't even begin to say how much further this relationship has gone because of our multiple yet brief encounters. That's the kind of things I think people are starting to look at now when they're looking at gauging return. It can't always just be based on the sales you make 90 days after the show. You have to start figuring out how to quantify the value of deeper relationships or introductions to a decision maker that you normally will never get via email or your other traditional marketing, or some other thing. Or maybe it's somebody that you've been tickling and marketing to for 2 years, and they finally get to meet you, and the relationship takes a giant, hyper step forward. So, are you creating are you creating some kind of an event in the booth during show hours that's going to help you track and measure value there? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I think it's ultimately, how are you actually measuring it is very important. Like you said, the first 90 days could be one way that you're thinking about it, but you've got to come up with some concrete ways to actually measure it. And sometimes it's just putting how did you hear about us on your forms, and making it very blank, not putting like a select option. Then you can maybe attribute to that specifically as the first entry point into your company. But then it's also about, if you're putting inside of your pipeline into your deals, that there was a meeting or a touch point at the trade show, that's going to be a really great way to touch it. And you can have a really easy custom field inside of your CRM to be able to track that on your deals. But also, you've got to see it as an opportunity for your salespeople to be scheduling meetings with the people that they already know that maybe are already in the pipeline. And that's how you're going to measure it.
Honestly, Khalil,
it's giving that other in-person touch point.
You just said it. The days of just getting a great looking exhibit and showing up and sort of freestyling the rest of it over, man. I mean, like you said, poll results have shown 75% of the people that attend trade shows and expositions already have a list of who they want to see when they go. And the chances is you're not on it. So if you're not doing some kind of pre-show marketing and pre-show communication, that means more than one. But if you're not targeting and talking to them 3 or 4 months in advance and giving them reasons to come and see you or to get on that list, man, I'm telling you, the odds get a lot longer for you on having any kind of a meaningful encounter. And I know we've talked about this in other episodes, can't say enough about the importance of selecting and preparing your staff, handpicking them, and then teaching them how to behave in this very unique and a lot of ways it's an unnatural environment. It's not what they're used to doing in the day.
That's actually my third question there is, how do I select and prepare my trade show staff for each event? And then this is one of the least asked questions. Why is it one of the least asked questions, and how is it typically approached?
We just think that the booth, I think people are conditioned, get the booth and it's impressive. And you're not thinking about the fact that I might talk to 100 prospects tomorrow. If I'm honest about the opportunity, the General Dan McLean with Trade Show Displays, who's a guy that, we partner with and do a lot of work for, and he sponsors some of these episodes. This guy's always walking the show floor. He said, nobody's talking to me anymore. He goes, single digit percentage of people that engage me, they are broadcasting their discomfort of not knowing what to say or do. No, but they do know that it's their responsibility to engage and get people stopped and talking. So they stand there awkwardly and watch people walk by, and you're just killing the ROI. So I'm saying, maybe it's not your best salespeople who you think are intuitively, you're going, those are the ones I got to have there. If you have a technical product, you might need somebody on duty that's going to be able to talk about the technical product. If you just got great customer service people, man, there's a company I used to work for. Everybody talked about the lady that was the receptionist because she was I remember Pam Morrison, right? I would pick up the phone and I'd call for an executive at the manufacturing plant and I'd say, hey, Pam, it's Chris Griffin. Oh, Chris, well, how are you doing? And how is that brother Peter and your other brother Dan doing? And that lovely wife of, oh my goodness, when are we going to see you again? It was every time I called, she was like the vice president of reception services. I want somebody like that on duty, but also coached up enough that I can say when they go, okay, this is great. I know we went through what the new service offering is. You've gotten to see what the version 2.0 of the software is. We talked a little bit about that. Sounds like you already have it. I made a note that you had a question about this. Okay, this is great. One question I have is, how would you like me to follow up with you? And then make a note of that and do it, right? Don't just follow up, follow through on doing that. But we need really great staffers that are going to take great notes. We talked about this in the past. If you're not having a 20-minute wrap-up meeting after everybody leaves when the show ends to compare notes while everything is fresh, and then you should already have your post-show follow-up plan determined and decided. The real winners are uploading and sharing those with the follow-up team back home. So if there's information packets that are going out, if there's emails that are going out, I've been at shows where I'm getting an email the next morning from somebody that I visited. They're just super on top of following that up. But you're making notes in there about if this is pipeline activity, Is this an A lead, a B lead, a C lead, or whatever your classification is? So we know how to follow up. The A leads are going to get a gift and a phone call and hopefully a scheduled appointment. The C leads are going to get an invitation to the open house we're having in 3 months. And, they're going to be tickled by a rep's going to do an introduction call. So, but there's just none of this is by accident, and all of it should be predetermined before the event kicks off, Khalil.
Yeah. Really interesting. There's so much that goes into it. And I think for a lot of people, the reason why these questions are the least asked are because they just think that, if you build it, they will come type mentality. We get the booth, everything is going to work out. But there's a lot of strategy that goes into this, which is why it's great to work with a partner. Okay, so I think this next least asked question is probably one of the most valuable for being able to measure and select the staff like we just talked about. But what is my exhibit's job at a trade show?
Well, that's
I think if we can define that really sets the foundation,
that's a big
right?
one. We have a booth. Well, it's where we conduct it. What does that mean? I think that, and does the staff know what the job is? I think that's one of the things that's failed to be asked. The purpose of the booth is, you say, oh, well, it's where we're going to meet our prospects or our customers. What's happening when you meet them? Are you sitting down with them? Are you just shaking hands and thanking them with their business? Is there a contract or a customer service issue that you're going to the private meeting room with versus those open tables at the conversation areas? Is there something new that you want to educate them about? Is there an information exchange that needs to take place? Is there a brand new shiny product you're showing, and this is their opportunity to actually see it, not online, but in a real setting, a machine, or seeing how it works? Do you want to introduce them to their customer service rep who they always talk to on the phone, but they've never gotten to meet? You want to think about, and hopefully the booth has then been designed for what the primary objective is, and then also in a way that can help you achieve some of those secondary goals or objectives. But yeah, it's not asked, but it's going to force you it might affect the design when you say, what's the booth's job? It's definitely also going to affect how your staff behaves. You got to remember to train them to use it accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if you define that, this really helps with the next question, but is this show really worth our participation?
Yeah. I'm hoping it's not as much anymore, but I still hear a few people, and it used to be all I heard 10 years ago. We go to the show because we've always gone. Or we go to the show because it's the big industry show. Or we go to a show because if we don't go, people are going to think we're out of business, and that would be bad. Right? These are lousy reasons to spend big dollars and travel a great distance to participate in a exhibition or an event like that. Who's your ideal customer? We all talk about that, and you define that as what the company is. But then within that company, is your product or service typically being marketed to procurement people, purchasing agents? Sometimes software's that way, or we were talking about QuickBooks at the break. If you're Intuit, right, or QuickBooks, you might only be talking with accounting people or purchasing people. That's not necessarily, I'm not saying you might not be at the big industry show, but maybe you can look at smaller vertical or regional shows and you get a better bang for your buck. So I'm interested in researching the show. I want to vet it. You're telling me that you get, 3,650 very high quality people, in this job description. How do I verify that? Ask them, has the show been audited by a third party? Can they verify that? If you get online and Google, a lot of times there's reviews about it. But, what's really frustrating is when show organizers or associations pad those numbers by including other exhibitors and the association staff and spouses that might come to attend because there's a spouse program. I'm interested in how many decision makers are really there. So, what I say is, it the right show to go to? Do your homework and make sure the audience that you specifically want to reach is going to be there. Then go.
Okay. So I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what is our plan to capture and follow up with leads we generate? Do you feel like people, this is a least asked question. I'm thinking this would be a huge aspect of what I would do, but do you find that people are just not thinking in those terms? It's probably that mindset of we've always gone.
I think when you're talking about how do you capture and collect the key information, I don't ever turn away somebody's business card because that's rude. But if your plan is collecting business cards and just using the standard badge scanner, keep in mind both of those items give you the same basic 7 fields of information that everybody at the show gets. So you're getting name, company name, address, phone, fax, email, website, right? So a few of the scanning badge collection devices may allow you to personalize, 4 or 5 or 6 questions. That's better, but there's all kinds of stuff now that makes it, it's just, I guess my point is, it's a huge missed opportunity, Khalil. If you're not getting 6 or 8 pieces of information, very specific, that your company wants to follow up in a very deliberate and intentional way. So we've had some guys on the show before, the guys from Backtrack, right? That have created an AI based lead capture software, and it turns your phone, right, your simple phone, into a capture device with their app. And what's great about it, just like a lot of the AI, if you're on Zoom, right, we all have these note takers. It has this amazing way, if you and I talk for 13 minutes, of really getting rid of the chit chat and just giving me bullet point specifics, including any promises or commitments that we make to each other. That I say I'm going to send you something, or you're going to get me the name of someone else at the company I should be talking to. So, there are some great tools out there that allow you to capture with not a lot of work, really no extra work, other than practicing using those. And it's an affordable thing to add to your budget per show. You get one good lead that closes out of that. It could literally pay for the whole show, let alone that kind of. But I'm a strong believer of you got to arm your staff, not just with great training about your strategy, but they've got to have the right tools to, if qualified leads is your number one goal. And about 85% of us that exhibit at trade shows say the reason we're there is to get qualified leads that we're going to follow up on after the show. Then you got to have the right tools to do that. So that's my version is, take a look. There's tons of great products out there that will help you beyond the business card and a standard badge scanner that a show is offering.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's got to be something that you're thinking about at the forefront, but
yeah,
obviously not a lot of people do. Number 7, who is ultimately accountable for our company's overall trade show performance? Do people pass the buck here?
Isn't that funny? You know what? What's that expression? The only thing more contagious than enthusiasm is a lack of it. Well, the only thing that gets fingers pointing faster, Khalil, is poor performance at something like a trade show. It starts with departmental blaming. Marketing will blame sales. Sales will say marketing didn't do enough to get people to the booth. There was a missed deadline on a new product launch or a website launch or a software update, and we want to blame product development. At the end of the day, sales is a company-wide responsibility. I will say this, my experience is trade show programs don't have a shot of really being all they can be if senior management, that's VPs and above, aren't 100% supporting what the trade show plan and vision is. It's like putting the knife on the table in a conversation when they know if you ask the senior VP of operations or sales to come in before everybody takes off for the show, when you're doing your pre-show meeting just before leaving. And he says, guys, we have $375,000 into this show. You are the ambassadors we're sending. That's what we spent on the booth, the space, the giveaways, and all the handouts that are going out after the show. So you're either going to come back with 53 leads or 253 leads. And guess what? I'm going to be supremely disappointed if you come back with 53 leads. Right? They need to hear someone senior, ownership, senior staff, back up the trip. Because when it's just a coordinator or a manager, sometimes people get, stars in their eyes when they hear that we're going to a show in New York City, or we're going to Las Vegas, or we're going to be at the, we're going to be at the big Sea Trade show in Miami. Whoa, man, what's in that town? You are on duty for 3 days. There'll be a victory dance at the end of the show. We'll all go out and we'll have a nice dinner. But somebody's got to, I think somebody of authority has to make sure that they understand we're serious about this. So, yes, I think senior management vocally supporting what's happening and maybe even restating it so everybody, maybe people don't know you spent $375,000 or whatever the number is. So absolutely, I think that's a critical part of that's missing right now. I don't think there's a big enough connect between the C-suite messaging the importance of the show to staff. So.
No, very good. Okay, question 8. Maybe we need to do more than a booth, or not a booth and something else in an event. How should we be considering sponsorship?
Yes.
And sponsorship opportunities at events? What should we be investing in?
Yep.
And then really just why?
Look, you all know, I think if you're a regular exhibitor, you know that somebody's got their name on the badge lanyard, right? You see the giant banner to the entry of the hall, or even on the outside of the Las Vegas Convention Center. There is serious money being spent on those obvious things. But you know what? The breakout sessions and a keynote speaker are more affordable way. You can sponsor something topic specific, right? That might be very specific to what your offering is. So if there's 79 different seminar breakouts or classes happening, which are the ones that are relevant to you? Bonus points if you can offer up and get one of your own employees or executives on the circuit where they can be one. That's a great thing to talk about. How about doing an offsite happy hour, either in the restaurants, or the restaurants at the venue hotel? Maybe it's across the street. It's, hey, 2 blocks away, there's an axe throwing place. And from 4 to 6, we're going to come bring a picture of the vendor that you hate the most, and let's throw axes at their picture, or, whatever it is. I think I've co-op sponsorships with other companies, right? So there could be a Topgolf thing. That's a great thing about the major shows in a venue city. There's always interesting stuff going on. Make no mistake, though, people's dance cards fill up very quickly with that kind of stuff. I think the ones I would look at the most, or within walking distance, probably in the complex somewhere. Number 2, I would not have them competing with show hours. So if the show opens at 10 or 10:30, I might look for something early, coffee and conversation type of a thing. And you do a little buyout of the bistro restaurant in the lobby of the hotel. Or maybe it's a happy hour at the sports pub, right at between 4 and 5 before they go out to their dinner plans or big receptions. But so breakout sessions, seminars, keynote speakers. Hey man, if we've been involved with a big brand computer company that buys out a restaurant, a block or two from CES show. Not a block or two, it's just down the hall. And maybe if you're a VAR for that big tech company, maybe you could sponsor a drink cart, right? Or the appetizers, or the the hot dog station, who knows? But, you're spending 60, 70, 80, $100,000 to have your show and your booth there. Just to look for another 2,500 or 3,500 or $5,000 sponsorship of some kind to just extend that presence, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of good opportunities there. Okay, question 9. What is our primary objective for exhibiting at this next show?
Yeah. Does anybody ask, because if you say, what's the number? And if you go leads, we're trying to get leads. Well, drill down a little more on that. Let's just say, I think that's the obvious answer. Okay. So can anybody tell me what a qualified lead looks like? One that you'd be excited to follow up on 2 days after you're back from the show? What's that look like? Well, somebody who says they're interested in buying. Okay. So one of the questions we should capture is, what product are you interested in? And where are you guys at in your purchasing cycle? We're a year away from buying one of these machines. Okay. That might be the way it is. Who's going to train the staff to ask that question? What's another question we might ask? What's the one after that? So all of a sudden you're, how about asking the people who are responsible for following up? What is it that's going to make this one of the Glengarry leads, right? We all see the movie Glengarry, Glen Ross, right? Give us the Glengarry leads. Give us the good leads. Give us the leads that have 6 or 8 pieces of information, right? That are going to get us excited. I know it'd be great if they all come back with leads and they said, these guys are ready to place an order. Well, that's an order. It's not a lead. A lead is some information that's going to help us take it and further it. Probably still needs a little salesmanship involved, but I think it starts, but if it sounds like a silly question or an obvious one, Khalil, but if you don't answer that question, we are there to create some buzz about our new website, which we haven't done in 10 years. It has all these cool new features. Okay. Has the booth been designed? Is there a giant LED wall showing that? Is there 6 locations? Is there so much to see that we can spread people around the island and they can learn different things about whether it's by region or by, but I mean, just that one question, it's affecting the design. It's affecting the information I want to get, which affects the behavior. It's probably going to impact the budget depending on, do I need a giant LED wall? If you think that you're going to create buzz about the new $150,000 website because you got a 32-inch monitor on a desk or a table, it's probably not the best thing to, showcase your new thing. And I would say the same about a product. Yeah. Auto companies know this, right? You go to an auto show, they are showing you the concept cars for 5 years ahead, and they look like they defy, it's just, they're all space age, right? But they do that for a reason.
Yeah.
They do it for a reason. So.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like speak to everyone and reach no one.
Yes.
Is kind of the thought there. Like if you have all these objectives, you're going to do all these things, then you're not going to accomplish any of them. So getting clear on the exact objective of the entire show for your company can really help you nail down how to actually approach that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got one last question. Yeah. Number 10. Specifically, what is my plan to drive trade show traffic to my booth space? How do you approach this?
Well, you know what? First of all, have a plan. It's a great question. And you need to ask that. What are we doing? And you can't just say, well, we just need the staff in the booth to stop everybody. I think, surveys have shown and recent history has shown creating some kind of an event in the booth. And I think celebrities are great, but it doesn't have to be that. How about the CEO that nobody ever gets to meet, being in there and doing a Q&A? He's going to be there from 10:30 to 11:30, and he's going to be there from 2:30 to 3:30. Come by and ask the CEO. I think that's a great thing to do. There's, some shows you can sign up and maybe you pay a nominal fee, but there's a scavenger hunt with 20 booths. right? And people have to go, and there's a prize, that's being offered if you get a passport stamp or something from each of those 20 booths. Maybe you have a version of that in your island booth, and there's, check in here, here's your passport. There's 10 things you need to check in and see, and just get that staffer to check you off or to initial right here. And you come, I know you see pens and coasters and necklace stuff out here, but the good stuff is in the storage closet, and that's where the leather tote bag is. And I'm going to get you one of those if you go through our 4 stations or 5 stations or whatever the case is. I think you create some kind of an event that's designed to make sure that they go through and hear what you want to say. What you're not saying is it's going to allow us to capture information that we want to capture about you. And by the way, it's not cheesy if you have 2 VIP gifts, one for the people that turn out to be a really qualified lead, others that are just the goodie grabbers, the trick-or-treaters, and they just came in, and it turns out it's the wife of a marketing assistant who came to the show, and maybe you have a different in the closet bag, and we hope you enjoy. This is Owlie, our stuffed mascot animal, and this is for you. And people are thrilled with that. You'd be surprised. But I think you create, how do I get traffic is tons and tons of pre-show marketing, drive them to the booth, give them something meaningful to come see. It could be an executive. It could be a celebrity. It could be a gamification type of a thing, something interactive. But really, Khalil, you just want them walking out of the booth going, oh, wow, that was fun. Or remembering your name by the time they turn the corner and not forgetting it. So I thought it was really clever the way they did that. Something to that effect.
It's good. Well, we got through all 10 questions. I think that this is really valuable for anybody that's thinking about going to a trade show coming up.
Yeah.
If they've got a booth at it, even if they don't have a booth at it. I think if you're anywhere in the sales, marketing, or leadership space for your company, this is a really valuable conversation to better understand how to approach trade shows and get you thinking about the things that are usually overlooked.
Well,
So,
if you're a veteran,
thanks for sharing all the wisdom.
Yeah, if you're a veteran exhibitor and you do shows regularly, you probably heard some things you're doing, and maybe it's just give yourself a pat on the back for doing them. Hopefully there's 1 or 2 new things that you heard, and you might give that a try. But I think the takeaway here for anybody is either veteran, tenured, or new, the days of just buying a great looking booth and showing up without a strategic plan that begins execution 3 months before the show and continues at least for the weeks, the near weeks right after the show. That's what a show really is. It's the show is the peak of the mountain, but you still got to get up it and you got to get down it. So appreciate you unpacking these with me today, Khalil.
Yeah, lots of fun. We'll see you on the next one,
All right,
Chris.
pal. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Experience Builders podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great content. Visit our website at crewxp.com to learn more about us. See you in the next one.